What's up, guys? I'm Laura from Reading in Bed, and this is going to be a quick Friday reads. So I have a couple books to talk about, and I'm still doing the 20 books of summer thing, so that's mostly what we're going to get to. But first, I just want to give a shout out to my library, which is the Edmonton Public Library, because in addition to their normal, summer reading club that they run for kids and have for a long time, like I think I remember this from when I was a kid, so where kids can fill out the time they've spent reading, and then they hand this in, and they get to enter prize draws, and they get to make themselves a little button for each one of these they do, and it's a lot of fun. Like, this is Henry's, and he's already read for 4 hours and 45 minutes, and he only started on Sunday. Today's Friday. Like, try to get this kid to do his actual assigned home reading, good luck. But with this, he is all over it. He's been reading Harry Potter with me and reading a lot of Big Nate comic books on Hoopla, which is also through the library. So that's Henry's. But this year, and I understand this is the second year, there's an adult reading club. So the adult reading club is the same idea, where you fill in the time you spent reading. When you're done your sheet, you bring it in, you get to enter for prizes, etc. But for the adults, you not only have to finish your 7 hours of reading, but you have to do activities as well. This is actually going to be kind of hard for me, because some of these, like going for a bike ride, that's not going to happen. Attending a local summer event or festival, I will do eventually, though. Like, I don't have any plans in the next week or so. So anyways, like, I have to kind of go through these. You have to do 4 activities and read for 7 hours. Then you get to enter contests and stuff like that. But it's just really cool that they're doing this, right? And yeah, as you can see, Henry is kicking my ass at the moment. So anyways, that's the summer reading club. As for the 20 books, I have finished one, I'm DNFing one, started another one, and I've read something off the list. So let's just get started. As always with all of these, my actual reviews of these books are on my blog. So this is just going to be like a quick rundown. So the 20 books of summer pick that I finished was Little Reunions by Eileen Chang. I'm just started watching, there's like an hour and a half long video, which is a talk where one of the translators is speaking to Hong Kong University, which is where part of this book takes place. So this is just someone recording this event that took place, I think it was last year. So I'm trying to watch that before I actually write my review, because there's a lot in here that's hard to understand, and the style of this book is fairly difficult. I would call it autofiction. I don't know if autofiction was something that people said back in the 70s when this was written, but it follows very closely to the events in Eileen Chang's life, including being a university student during the Japanese invasion of Hong Kong, and then her moving back to Shanghai, and some of the relationships she gets into. But the big through line in this book is Eileen, or Julie in the book, and her relationship with her mother. And Little Reunions speaks to the fact that they hardly ever live in the same household, but every couple years they kind of get thrown back into the same room. And they're both very strong-willed individuals, so it's a very complicated mother-daughter relationship. So, like, I would say don't start here with Eileen Chang. This really was a difficult book. I didn't find it very enjoyable to read until the very end. The very end, it finally kind of comes together, and I mean the very end. I mean, like, the last page, but in such a way that you're like, wow, like, this is someone who is so talented, and no one writes the way she does. I would say start with something else, though. This is a bit of a challenge, a bit of a slog for a lot of it, and very much in that autofiction kind of a style. So if you're not into that, I would not even wouldn't even go near it. So watch for an actual review of that soon. Then I have recently decided, after some encouragement on Twitter, to DNF The Ghost Bride by Yangsze Choo, which was another 20 books of summer pick. This one, another writer of Chinese descent, but the time period is different. It's kind of late 19th century, and it's a family that lives in Malaysia, and it's based on what I believe is a real cultural practice in which a woman can be like married to a man who's already died, and then she just like lives in his family's household and is taken care of. And I'm not sure what like benefits there are for the family of the dead guy, but apparently this is a thing, and this is a thing that our main character here is kind of being roped into. And as she gets to know the family of this man who has recently passed away, she falls in love with the cousin of the dead guy. And as I was getting into this, I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a little romancy, and that's fine. Like I was actually enjoying it, and there are a lot of supernatural elements. It's like, okay, that's fine. It's not usually like I don't read a lot of romance or a lot of supernatural romance certainly, but I was like, okay, let's just have fun with this, and I was having fun with it. But in the last couple of chapters, it has become just our main character. Of course, I've forgotten her name, and since I'm listening on audio, I think I hear it as Lee Lin, and I could be a little off about that. But our main character, anyway, for the last couple of chapters, we're just following her as she's in sort of this ghost world, and she isn't doing anything. She's just getting told stuff by other characters. Like it's very much what people call an info dump, I think. Like I think in fantasy and sci-fi, this is sort of known as world building. Like it's just the author speaking to us through a character. Like there's nothing happening in the story other than our main character is listening to someone explain to her the rules of how this sort of weird quasi afterlife works. And so to me, that's both kind of boring and also just really I don't know what the right word is. It's like not very elegant in terms of like how the author is choosing to do it. It's like very, I don't know. It's not working for me at all. I'm just like, enough of this. Honestly, it's not a style I enjoy. I feel it's like almost a little condescending. It's like, okay, you can just like get moving with the story and I will either pick up what's going on or I won't. Rather than having all this information just kind of thrown at me. So anyways, I'm DNFing this. I'm like maybe halfway-ish through, but yeah, I'm done. And then the other book that I finished in this past week was not on the 20 books list, but I had been on hold for this at the library for months and months, and it came in, and I said, well, you know what, it's like 130 pages, so whatever. It's Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss, and went in with fairly high expectations, having heard a few dissenting voices, but it sounded like the kind of thing I was really going to like. But it ended up being the kind of thing that I only sort of like. Kind of, not really for the same reasons as Ghost Bride, although it has to do with the style. It has to do with the fact that I can see and feel what the author's trying to do the whole way through. There's no point at which I got sucked into this story and wasn't feeling sort of that authorial presence. There's no point in the story where I felt like these characters were real people at all. They're just like, they're clearly there to play out their role. You can describe this as like seeing the strings or whatever, but yeah, so the similarity is just that I can see and feel so heavily what the author is trying to do and say that it just gets in the way of actually enjoying the story. This is about a bunch of people who come together to kind of reenact Iron Age Britain. Some of them are from a university archaeology course, and some are this working class family who have a father who's like obsessed with Iron Age Britain for reasons that are rather suspect in terms of like the good old days and racial purity and patriarchy and all that kind of stuff. And it's sort of like from the very first scene, I'm like, oh, I know how this book's gonna end. And it did. And even as we got further into the chapters, like towards the end, the chapters started getting shorter and choppier. And I'm like, oh yeah, the author's trying to like build tension or whatever. It's just, there was no surprises in here for me. It just played out exactly the way I kind of thought it would. So that's, it was okay. It was good. I didn't hate it. Mark Nash has a good review. I think he dislikes it a lot more than me, but I enjoyed his review. If nothing else, he taught me what the word risible means, because I always thought it was pronounced risible, and I also didn't really know what the meaning was. I think it's sort of like a laughable or ridiculous, so that kind of gives you an idea of how he felt about Ghost Wall. So finally, I am on to my next 20 books of summer pick. I think this might be number 6 now that I'm on. So this is Refuse, or Refuse, CanLit and Runes. So this is a collection of essays from various authors, and it's all about the CanLit scandals that kicked off in late 2016 and are sort of still continuing, but not really. A lot of it has died down because so far in this book, I keep remembering, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that this author was involved. Like the one that really threw me and caught me off guard was Miriam Taves, who has, since these scandals, has written Women Talking, which is like a overtly feminist book and about sexual assault, and I totally forgot that she signed the UBC accountable letter, which I'm sure some of you have no idea what that is, but it yeah, I'm not even gonna try to explain it in detail, but it was a letter which was signed by a lot of prominent Canadian authors in support of another Canadian writer who had been accused of sexual assault. So as you can imagine, the people who signed that letter are kind of finding themselves on the wrong side of history here in many ways. And Miriam Toews was one of them, and I totally forgot. Now, she did end up taking her name off that open letter pretty quickly too, but the fact that she signed it in the first place, and she is very lauded right now for you know, a book that is specifically about sexual assault, was just, I was like, oh yeah. So even though these scandals were pretty recent, they have sort of faded away, and a lot of the point of this book, I think, is to sort of document a lot of stuff that happened on social media and blogs and stuff, so that we don't forget. So far, it's, you know, it's working. This will be a tough one to review because there's so many authors involved. But anyway, so that is my Friday reads, and I'm gonna go watch some of yours now. Thanks for watching.